Hello my friends, welcome back to my 4-Star School YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to finish the detailed message page of this beautiful chat application. In the last lesson, we have finished the homepage of this chat application and we have defined the user class, the message class. So in this video, I'm going to use those two classes. The first part of the video will put in the description below. Feel free to reach out to my channel page and find more Flutter UI tutorial. The GitHub starter project includes all the assets you need to make this beautiful chat application. We also post on the description below. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel and sum up my content. I'll be really appreciate. Okay, without further ado, let's get started. Let's back to Visual Studio Code and also open our design file. So here I'm going to divide this detail chart page into 3 parts. So the first part is this detail A bar, and then is this contact information. First part is this detail messages. Okay, let's back to Visual Studio Code. Under our detail folder, we're going to create a file called detail.dar and also create a widgets folder, store a custom widget belong to this detail page. And so the first widget I'm going to create is this detail app bar. Alright, so we're going to create this detail page first. So it should be a stateless widget, and I'm going to call it detail page. And remove this constructor for now and import a library. So here I'm going to place this container with our scaffold widget. Implement this body attribute. Here I just give a placeholder which shows this is our detail page, and we're going to find each of those message item. When I click it, I will be navigate to the detail page. So let's go back to our home.dar file. I think this is our message list. So we're going into these messages and we're going to find, I think it's this build message method. So inside this build message method, I think actually is this entire row. So I'm going to wrap this row with the gesture detector widget. And inside this gesture detector, we're going to implement its own tab. So for this own tab, I'm going to use a navigator dot of context and push to our detail page. And here I'm going to pass the context because we can access the build context in our item builder. So we're going to pass this context as well. And here I'm going to implement this parameter build context, which is the context. So we can access to this context and we can use a material page route, and also implement it is, I think it's this build method, build attribute. We're going to pass this context and we'll navigate to our detail page. Okay, so this should be we're going to import this class. Yeah, that should be enough. So let's save. Okay, so let's try. When I actually click this message, we're going to navigate to the detail page. So let's see. Okay, I think that's what we want. And next we can trying to style this detail page. But also I think we may need some information stored in the this message object. So we're going to receive those messages. So we're going to pass the message along to this detail page to access the message. So, and we're going to change this detail page. So I'm going to define a message attribute, and also I call it message. Here I'm going to import a class, then implement it is a constructor using this syntax sugar, so we can actually access the message in here. So here I just trying to access some attribute inside this message. So for example, the last message. So let's save. You'll be able to see this page actually changed. So we're going to save this as well. Okay, now you see we got this message which from our first user. Okay, so we can start from this point and going to implement those custom widgets one by one. So first, I'm going to close those unrelated files. So for our detail page, and I'm going to use a column widget. So this is a column widget, and this is our first column, this is our second column, and this is our third column. But we wrap this third column inside the expanded widget. Okay, so back to Visual Studio Code. I'm going to change this center widget to a column widget, and also implement this children attribute. And first going to change the background color of this scaffold to use our primary color. Let's save. Then we're going to implement our detail app bar custom widget. So first going to create a stateless widget, and I call it detail app bar. I'm going to remove the constructor and also import a library. And inside this container, I'm going to use a row widget, and it's a 2 row, and first row, and this is our second row. So I'm going to implement our first row, and which is a text button. So inside this text button, we're going to implement 2 required attributes. So first is this onPressed, and when user press the button, we're going to navigate back to our previous page because this is the back button. So I'm going to use this navigator dot of context dot pop method, which can navigate back to the previous route. And also for its child, I'm going to use a test widget inside this text, and I just write this backed. Also style it a little bit using the text style, and because I'm going to give the color and also set this with capacity attribute. So first the font size and set to 16 and change the color to white, also with capacity 0.5% capacity. Colors dot white start with a capacity set to 0.5, and let's save. Also we need to import, so we're going to see it is a path. So let's import this detail app bar. Okay, let's save. There is hard to see, so we're going to give this container a little bit padding. So I'm going to use edge inset dot from left, top, the right, and bottom. So left would be 10, and the top would be 40, and right would be 10, and bottom would be 0. So I'm going to save it, and now you'll be able to see this back button. So when I press it, we'll be back to our home page. Okay, so let's keep implement the rest part. And so for the second one is also a text button, and we're going to implement those required attribute as well. So for this onPress method, I just leave it empty, and for the child, it should be a text widget as well. I call it search, and then so style, I use the text style. So change the font size, font size to 16 as well, and also the color to white with capacity, color white with capacity, and set to 0.5. So let's save. Also, don't forget set these main cross alignment. So I'm going to set the main alignment to space between, so you will separate those buttons. Okay, this one is what we want, as you see from this prototype. Okay, next we're going to implement this contact info, but we need the information which are stored in the message object. So we're going to create another file. I just call it contact info.dar, and which is a stateless widget. I'm going to create a stateless widget, and I just call it contact info. Then delete this constructor for now. Import the library. Also, we need to declare an attribute, which is the message. Import the library. Also, finish it is constructor. Then we can use the information stored in this message. So first, back to our design file, we're going to display it is a first name and last name. So here I'm going to use a road widget and going to implement it is children. So for the row widget, we have this one is our first row, and this is our second row. And the second row is another row widget, which have those two icons. So for the first row, I'm going to use a text widget. So in the text, we can access to these messages. So we're going to use a message user first name. Also, for the second one is message user last name. Okay, so let's save. And I think we need to import this contact info as well in our detail page. We're going to import the contact info, and we need to pass the message. So let's save, so we can see our name show on the screen, but we need to style it a little bit. So for this first and last name, we're going to implement this style. So use the text style and change the height to 1.2, and also the font size to 28, the color to white color. The final is this font weight and change to bold. And let's save. Then add some padding for this container. Just use edge inset symmetric, set horizontal to 25. Let's save. Now it looks better. Then it's our second row, which is another row widget, and I'm going to implement it is trial. And because you see those two icons are very similar, so only difference is those icon data. So I'm going to create a method which is called build card button, and this method will return a widget. And inside this method, we're going to return a container. And also we will require the icon data is our parameter. Then we can render different icons, different buttons. So for the container, we could implement the child, which is the icon. In this icon, we can access to this icon data. Should be data. Okay, icon data. And also the color. Color is white. And also the icon size, I changed to 25. And we can pass these icons dot font. Okay, let's save. And you're able to see we have this phone icon. Also, I will give this container a decoration. I use box decoration. Implement it is shape. I use box shape box circle, and also change the color. Use the colors by with capacity. I'm going to set to 0.3. Let's save. Also, in order to make the same result, we're going to add some padding. So the padding, I'm going to use edit inset.all and just set to A is enough. So let's save. Now it's much similar. So we can just duplicate it and pass a different icon data. So for the second one, I'm going to use icons dot video camera dot back. Okay, so let's save. Then we have a two icon, and we may probably give some space between those icons. So I just use size the box, and I give a weight just 10 is enough. Set to 10. So let's save. Also for this entire row, I'm going to set it is main alignment. I'm going to use main alignment dot space between to separate those two rows. Okay, I think now it's much better. Next, we're going to implement these messages detail. So back to our models file, we're going to create another static method which generate a list of message. Only include myself and the first user. So I'm going to create another user object which just call it me. So it should have a user ID and the username, which is my name, and also last name, and the access dot images dot user. This is my avatar, and is the color, my background color. So I'm going to use the color. I think we need to import the library. Okay, so I declare this user, which is me, and also I'm going to create another static method generate a list of messages for one specific user. And in the real life, you're going to get these messages from your own backend servers. For in this case, I just make some fake data. So the first message is sent by the user 1, and the second message is reply by me, and the second message is sent from the first user, similar like these. So we're going to use those messages to finish our detailed message page. Then save this file, and also remember our user ID is 0. Okay, so let's back to the detail.dar, and we're going to create a messages file, detail message .dar, and then create another stateless widget. I'm going to call detail messages and remove this constructor for now, and also import the library. So inside this detail message page, I'm going to use stack widget because we have this text input, so I can easily move it to the spot I want. Okay, let's back to detail messages. So first I'm going to declare my own ID, so which is 0, and also going to create a list of messages, and I will get the message from the message class. We're going to import it, and also access to it is generate messages from a user, so we get a list of messages. Then we're going to implement the child for this container. So here I'm going to use a stack widget as I mentioned, and I'm going to use a stack widget. So for our first item, I'm going to use a container. For this container, it should be this white space. I'm going to implement its decoration because we have this round corner. Use the decoration, box decoration. Inside this box decoration, we need to implement it is border radius, and we use border radius dot only, and only change top to left and top to right, and we use radius dot circular and set to 30. Same as for the top to right, set to 30. And then we're going to change the color for this container, and here because you have this decoration, so the color we must define inside this decoration, so change to colors.white, and also we can give some padding from the top. Okay, so I'm going to use edit inset dot from left to right. So left is 25, top is 50, and right is 25, and below is bottom is 80. Okay, so let's save. It's hard to see first because we didn't import, so I'm going to import it, which is our detail messages. Detail messages. Okay, let's save. You're able to see our container, and as I said before, and I'm going to wrap it with the expanded widget, so it will took all the available space. So let's save. Yeah, this is what we want. And back to the detail messages, and going to give some margin from the top, so we can use edit inset dot and only set top to 30. Let's save. Okay, that's pretty good. Inside this container, we have a child attribute. I'm going to use a list view to generate our messages. So I'm going to use this view dot separated because we have some gap between each messages. For the item count, I just use the list dot length, and for the separate builder, I'm going to use just return size box. keep the height and just set to 20. And last is this item builder. So I'm going to check, depends on the user inside this message. If the ID is equals my ID, which I define here, which is list 0, I'm going to render the message on the right side. Otherwise, it will show on the left side. So I'm going to return, and first I'm going to check if these dot messages these index dot messages so user the ID. I'm going to check the ID if equals my ID. So if it equals my ID, I'm going to create another method which is called build receiver text, and otherwise I'm going to call another method which is this build sender text. Okay, so for both those methods, I'm going to receive these messages as well, and then we're going to create those two methods. Okay, I think should be here. Going to create those two methods, build receiver and also build a sender text, and we're going to receive messages send as the second one. Okay, so we can implement those one by one. So for this build receiver text, and we can back to our design file. For the receiver, we have a different color, and also we don't have the icon for the user. Okay, and also this time is shown on the left side. Okay, so we can start from this point. So I'm going to return a row widget. So inside this row widget, we're going to implement this child. So as you see, we have this is a text, and this is a container. Inside this container, we have text. So I'm going to create a text which store this last time. I'm going to, because we can access to these messages, so we can use message last time, right? And also style it a little bit. style style, use text style for the text style, and we're going to change the color to grid light, and also for the font size, change it to a very small. Okay, we can save. The reason we have this error because we didn't implement this build sender text, so we just return empty text, and then we save. Now you're able to see those last time here. Okay, and I need to set this return type, which is the widget. Okay, we can start to implement these messages. So under this text widget, I'm going to use a container widget inside this container, and I'm going to use a constraint box because I'm going to set it is a constraint. If the text is too long, you will automatically move to the next line. So here I'm going to use a constraint box, inside this constraint box, we're going to set it is constraint, and when we move the mouse, we will see these box constraints. So we place this box constraint, and we can set the max width is 180. So let's save. And it's hard to see those tags because we haven't implemented it yet. So inside this constraint box, we have this child. So I'm going to use a text widget and pass our message.text plus the messages. So we can save, and you see those messages automatically move to the next line if it's very long. Okay, and I'm going to style a little bit for this row and give the main axis alignment to a space between. Going to separate those, and also change the background color for this container. I'm going to use a decoration, and so the box decoration. For the box decoration, and we change the color to primary light. Also for the border radius, and as you notice, we're going to change the top, the left side, top or right, and the bottom left. So we're going to use this border radius start only, name constructor only. We're going to only change top left to radius dot circular to 15, and just copy paste 2 times. Change this top left to top right, and also the bottom left. Okay, let's save, and you'll be able to see this bubble, but we're going to give the padding as well. So we use edge inset set or to 10. Let's save. Okay, now it's much good. And style this text a little bit. Use the text style. Inside this text style, we're going to change the height of the text to 10.5, and also the color. I'm going to use our primary dark color. Let's save. Okay, I think now it's better. Next, we're going to implement this build sender text method. So going to find this build sender text method, and we're going to return a row widget as well. And this is the row widget, and this is our first row because we're going to use a space between to separate this row and this text widget. Okay, so we're going to replace the text widget with this row widget, and inside this row widget we have our first row and text widget. So for the text widget, it should be just the message dot last time, and change its style. Use text style. For the color, use grid line color, and also change the font size to just 12. Okay, and we can save. Yeah, because we didn't implement our first row, so it will show on the left side. Then we're going to implement our first row. For it is children, we're going to create the icon. So for which is this avatar. So I place a container, and I'm going to implement it is a child. I use image.access, and we can use message.user.icon URL. Right, so we can save. you're able to see the icon shown here, but it's too large. So we're going to change it to change its width. Going to change it to 30. 30 is enough. Save. Okay, 30 is enough. Then for this container, I'm going to implement this decoration. Change. We have the background. So I use a box decoration and change the color as well. Color we can use message it user, the background color. Also change the shape to circle. Box shape dot circle. Let's save. And I think we need give some padding as well. So for the padding, I use edit inset star or, and I just set to 5 is enough. Okay, let's save. Okay, it looks good to me. And next we implement the messages, and also we need to give some space between the icon and the message. So I use a sized box and set the width to 10. Okay, so next is our text. I wrap inside our container because we also need to set up border radius for this text as well. So we have a child widget, which is our message. So we're going to pass the message here. So which is message last messages, right? And we're going to style it. So we use text style for the text style, and we're going to change the height set to 1.5, and also change the color to a primary dark. So let's see. You will notice as soon as I save, I will encounter this text overflow. The reason is we didn't use the constraint box as well we did for the receiver text method. So I'm going to wrap this text widget with the constraint box. So inside this constraint box, and I'm going to implement this constraint, so which is the box constraint. So inside this box constraint, we can specify this max width, and I just set to 180. And this time when I save, the text overflow will be gone. See, and keep style it. So inside this container, we implement the box decoration, and because we need to change its color as well as the border radius. So for the color, I'm going to use a grid light color with capacity. I'm going to set to 0.2, and also for the border radius, I'm going to use border radius dot only, border radius dot only. To set it is top left using the radius dot circular and set to 15, and just copy and paste. Okay, and change this top left to top right, and also this top left to bottom right. Okay, I think that's enough. Let's save, and we have a bubble around our text, and also we need to add some padding. So we use edge inset.or and set to 10. So let's save. Now it would be much similar like here, and I'm going to separate this time and the message. So I'm going to place this main axis alignment to space between, separate those two. Okay, that's pretty well. And the reason we have a lot of white space here because we use a list view. So we're going to change the padding of this view to edge inset.0. So when I save, I will remove all the unnecessary white space. As you can see, some of the text didn't have this icon on the left, and because I'm not sure if you remember, so we actually give this message an attribute called is continue. If it's set to true, I'm going to hide the icon. So I think which I set this one. I think that's fine. Oh, here I set our server message is continue set to true, and I'm going to hide this icon. So let's back to our detail message, and inside this view a sender method, and I'm going to give a check. First I'm going to find where is the icon. Okay, it's here. So I'm going to check in which is this message dot is continue. Okay, is continue. If it is continue, I'm not going to return this container. Instead, I just return a sized box with width 40. Otherwise, I return the icon. So let's save, and we will hide this icon. Yes, I think that's what we want. Similar like this prototype. Okay, and next we're going to implement the text field, which allow us to send a message. We're going to find our stack widget in here. We're going to place a line widget under this container. We want to align our text field in bottom center. So we're going to use align widget. Alright, so I give the alignment, and I set to align top bottom center. That's what we want. Also, for it is child, I just return a container. So inside this container, I could set the height for this container, probably 50 is enough, and also the width set to 300. And also keep the margin to the bottom. And you notice we have a little space between the bottom, so I'm going to set the margin, and I think 20 is enough, so just use this edge inset only and choose this button, set to 20. And then we're going to implement this child. For the child, I also use another stack widget because I want position this send button. So I use another stack widget and implement it is children. First children would be our text field, and the second children I think is our positioned widget. In the position widget we have this child attribute, which is the required. So I'm going to return a container, and we're going to implement these one by one. So for the text field, and I'm going to implement this declaration attribute. So I use input declaration for input declaration, and I fill a color, and I'm going to use a grid line color. The with opacity we set to 0.2, and also set this field to true. And then I'm going to set some content padding. Use edge inset.or and set to 10. Then and the border, I'm going to change it to rounded shape. So for the border, I'm going to use outline input border. For this outline input border, we have a border radius attribute, and I'm going to set to 20, and border radius circular set to 20, and we can probably save for now and see what's coming out. Okay, and I think we still need to remove the border. So for the border side, and I'm going to change it to none and just set the border side dot none. Okay, let's save. We can remove the border, and next is our hint text. Okay, should be outside this border. Save for the hint text, which is type your message. Okay, and also give it style using text style. For the text style, we're going to change the color and the font size. Color, I just use a primary dark color with opacity and set to 0.3, and also change the font size to 14. Let's save. Okay, I think we could increase the content padding probably to 18. Okay, now it's better. Next, we can implement this positioned, which is this send button. So for this button, first we're going to align it to right, set to A, and button set to A. Then for the container, for the child, I'm going to use the icon. And for icon data, icon start and send. Also change the color to white color. Also for the size, I just change it to 20. And this just for the icon, but we also have a round shape, so we're going to implement a decoration. So we use box decoration, and we change it to change the color to primary color, and also the shape to circle using the box shape circle. Okay, and the most important is the padding. So padding dot or set to A as well. So let's save. Now we'll be able to see this send button. Okay, I think that's pretty much for this detailed message page, but there is one more thing I need to mention, which is when I press this text field, by default this message list didn't scroll to the latest message, so we're going to implement this feature as well. First, we're going to create a scroll controller, and I just call it scroll controller. Use this scroll controller constructor, and we initialize this scroll controller. I will pass it to our list view. So inside this view, we have this controller attribute. I'm going to pass this scroll controller to it, and also I'm going to reverb our list. So inside this build method, but above this return statement, I'm going to create another variable. I just call it message list equals list.from, and I'm going to reverse this list. Reversed. So now this list is reversed, and we're going to use it. So I'm going to change our normal list to reversed list. Okay, that's all. And inside this view, we have an attribute which is called reversed, and we're going to set to true. Okay, and we finish part of it, and you see your automatic scroll to the bottom, right? Okay, let's back to our home page, and when I click it, you see it will automatically scroll down because this is our first item. Now the list is count from bottom to up, so this message actually is index 0, and this is index 1, index 2, index 3. So by default the 0 will show on the top. Then we can implement the onTab attribute inside this text field. So inside this text field we have a onTab attribute. I'm going to call our scroll controller .animate2, and we can set this offset, duration, and the curve. So for the duration, I just set to 0. I want it to scroll down to our first message, and for this duration, I can just use duration class. Probably just set mouse again. When you move mouse, you can see we have lots of different parameters. I'm going to set this mouse seconds to 300, and also for our curves, and I'm going to use which is called east out. Okay, let's save. Okay, now we can scroll these messages to the top. Okay, when I tap this text field, you automatically scroll to our first message. Okay, the first message actually in the bottom because we reverse it. Okay, so let's see. When I click this message, you see we achieve the same effect like normal message app. Okay, I think that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoy learning with me. After you finish this tutorial, you can also make this beautiful chat application. I will post the GitHub starter project link in the description below, so don't forget to subscribe to my channel and thumb up to my video. I will be really appreciated. Okay, thanks for watching. I will see you in next video.